I have to make comment on the events that happened this week in Connecticut. And I'm probably going to, well, not too many people, I don't think, that watch this audience, but there are some people that would be very turned off by what I'm about to say, and I'm going to say it anyway. The politicians in Connecticut, the politicians in Washington, D.C., the police agencies who promote the strict gun control laws that exist in the state of Connecticut, and the fact that by virtue of the above agencies, our schools and colleges, not just in Connecticut but across America, are for the most part, they would call them gun-free zones, which means they are killing-free zones. The means of self-defense has been taken from so many people around the country. These crazy people who take a gun and then go shoot a bunch of innocent young people, in this case elementary, kindergarten age children, know that there is no one going to resist them. Have you ever noticed that the crazy people that commit mass killings are never crazy enough to attack guys at a gun range? In fact, I've never heard anybody going into a gun shop and opening fire. Or a police station. They go to places they know that the citizens are disarmed and cannot fight back. The people in Washington, in Connecticut, and our other state legislatures, and the police agencies that are collaborating with them, promoting the increased disarmament of the American citizenry, hear me clearly, have the blood of those children on their hands. Instead of calling for more and more gun control, which they are, and now we're going to have a huge fight on our hands politically to try and resist the gun control laws that are going to be introduced and proposed over the next few weeks and months. Just remember now, they can't do it without the House of Representatives. And the House of Representatives are controlled by the Republican Party. Okay? So whatever comes down the pike cannot happen without the help of the Republican Party. So let's see how courageous and consistent they're going to be in standing for the Second Amendment there in the House of Representatives, Mr. John Boehner and others. Instead of calling for more gun control and taking guns out of the hands of honest people, what we ought to be doing is lawfully allowing those teachers and professors and other adults in the school setting, be they maintenance people or principal or staff or whatever, the ones that would choose to do so, to allow them to arm themselves in the classroom, in which case this tragedy last week in Connecticut would not have been as egregious as it was. In the college setting, if you are of age usually that's 21, and you are willing to do so, and you're willing to train yourself and equip yourself and obtain a concealed weapon permit, showing that you have the ability to defend yourself, you should, if you're a student of age and you are willing to do that, you should have the right, under the laws of our states and of our federal government, to arm yourselves in the college and university classrooms as well. This is a matter of self-defense. It's a matter of adults behaving like adults. Part of the responsibility of adulthood is protecting those who are too young to protect themselves, or too old to protect themselves, or too disabled to protect themselves. That's one of the responsibilities of adulthood in a free society, is men and women willing and able to defend themselves and others against the predators of our communities. That is the answer to all of these shootings. And by the way, if you are a lawfully armed adult citizen here in the state of Montana, and I know many of you are, we probably have a higher percentage of armed citizens in the state of Montana than maybe any state in the United States. Another one of the many reasons that I love the state of Montana. But if you are so trained, you have taken the necessary classes and courses, you practice, you know how to defend yourself, you know how to use your firearm, you're lawfully armed in our community, you need to be armed. Don't go to a store without being armed. Don't go to a movie theater without being armed. Don't go to a restaurant without being armed. If just one person in that school had been aptly armed, that tragedy could have been much, much less. It would have been a tragedy if only one was killed, for sure. I remember, just real quick, in the state of Florida, which was the first state in modern times to recognize the right of its citizens to carry and keep and bear arms, and to do it with a concealed weapon permit. I know how some of you feel about concealed weapon permits, so you don't have to come and preach to me after church. I understand what you feel about that. I have one, and I know many of you do, and I encourage those of you to get one who would want and choose to get one. That state was the first one, and the laws of that state are the model of pretty much all the other states. They've pretty much modeled their CCW laws on the state of Florida's. And that's why that license is reciprocated in over 40 states around the country. And by the way, Florida has just turned over 1 million lawfully armed CCW permit holders in the state of Florida. 1 million. 1 million. When's the last time you ever heard of a CCW permit holder murdering anybody? When's the last time you ever heard of a shooting take place perpetrated by a CCW permit holder? Name one. Can't find them. They're lawfully armed men and women. They are law-abiding citizens, honest citizens, who, by the way, according to the Clinton Justice Department statistics, so we're going back a few years, but it's still going to be pretty close. According to the Clinton Justice Department statistics, the American people use a firearm to defend themselves or a loved one 4,000 to 6,000 times per day in this country. every day. 4,000 to 6,000 times an honest American citizen uses a firearm, usually a handgun, to defend someone. And you never hear about that in the media. In 1987 is when that bill passed. I lived in Florida then. I remember this very well. I was one of the very first to get mine. I still got it, my CCW permit from Florida. Not long after that passed and that began to take effect, a wacko, and by the way, I got some personal questions about where are all these wackos coming from. I got some real serious questions about where these wacko nut jobs that would walk into a school and shoot a bunch of little children are coming from. Anyway, save that for another sermon. A guy walked into a McDonald's restaurant with a so-called assault style weapon, intent on killing as many people in the restaurant apparently as he could. He came in, he shot the first person that was closest, and he was immediately shot by 3 citizens in the restaurant who were lawfully carrying a concealed weapon. So tragically, he killed 1 person, but that was it. Because there were 3 people in that restaurant at that moment that were carrying their weapons, and they let that guy have it. And what was a terrible disaster could have been a whole lot worse. So anyway, we can expect these people to try and enforce more gun control. I would just say this again. They can do what they want. They can say what they... I'll just tell you this right now. I'm just going to go on record. I am not registering any firearm I own. I'm not going to do it. Law or no law, I'm not going to do it. Registration leads to confiscation. I'm not registering. I don't care what the law says. You hear me? I'm not going to do it. Neither am I going to confiscate or allow my weapon or surrender any weapon I have, and I'm not going to surrender my magazines either. Amen. I'm just telling you that. I'm not going to do it. If there is a line that's going to be drawn in the sand, in my opinion, it's going to be drawn where our founding fathers drew it, and that is when they come for our guns, we must, if we are going to have any kind of freedom in the future, say no. It's not going to happen. Anyway, we really need to pray for these families. How awful that was, and these parents and what they have to be feeling today. And we all have children or grandchildren, and oh man, our heart just grieves. I'll tell you something else you might want to think about, and this is just, we're just talking. Do you really want to keep putting your kids in these schools where nobody's allowed to defend your children? And something like this could happen anywhere, anytime, because there's all the laws prohibit somebody from protecting your children? I don't know. And it's no wonder the homeschooling movement is growing so fast. And people are recognizing that it's more than teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's a little matter of just plain keeping my children safe. Amen. So, pray for these folks. And then be prepared to petition our governor and our congressmen and our senators and our elected officials locally, and make sure they understand in no uncertain terms that the people of the state of Montana are not going to stand for any more gun control. We're not going to do it. So we need to communicate that.